you influenced Larry Bird to come to Indiana State.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you can share about that, but we would love insight into kind of the relationship you had and what kind of person Larry Bird was.
I saw Larry play when he was a junior. I was up there looking at Kurt Gilstrap at another school, and saw Larry play. And, you know, he was 6'3". I said, well, that kid's really good, but he's, you know, I don't know if he's quick enough to play guard at the Division I level. And then I saw him again in the Indiana All-Star game, and he'd grown 4 inches. And I changed my mind real quick. I thought he was the best player on the All-Star team. As it turned out, he was. It's just that he was the 11th pick. You know, he's from small town, southern Indiana, and didn't get much publicity. And, you know, if he hadn't signed at Indiana University, he probably wouldn't have been on the All-Star team. When I got to Indiana State, I asked Coach King if they had been recruiting Larry. I said, you know, he's down in French Lick. And he said, no. I said, he said, do you think he's good enough? I said, Coach, he can get doubles for us. He said, well, maybe you better go see him then. And so the next day I was in French Lick and looking all over for him. When I finally got to sit down and talk with him, you know, his background, being a small town boy, we were a lot alike. Mm-hmm. And he was so shy, he wouldn't look at you. He looked at the floor when he talked to you. Right. And talked about him coming to visit Indiana State. And he talked about his teammates. And he had a kid that played who was a year older than him. And he said, you know, you need to be recruiting Kevin Carnes, but I don't know if he'd come. You know, he's married, and I think his wife might be pregnant. And I don't know if she'd let him, but he'd have been a great player if he had gone to college. And I looked at him and said, Larry, they're going to say that about you one of these days if you don't take advantage of this opportunity. And I think that's probably that really rang a bell with him. And I think that probably is the reason why he ended up at Indiana State.
Talking about Larry, I want to hear the story about Larry worked for the street department there back in French Lick, correct?
That's correct.
And it's like he was not planning on going to play basketball anymore. You have an amazing presence and connection with people. And Larry Bird probably would not ever go on to play unless you connected with him. Was it that close for him just kind of continue on working for the street department in French Lick?
Well, I don't know. When you look back on it, when we sat there and we talked about a lot of things, we talked about baling hay, you know, that's how we made our money during the summer. They'd pay us, we'd get a group of guys and they'd pay us 3 to 4 cents a bale to put the hay, put it up and put it in the barn. That's right. And he did the same thing. And we had a lot of, you know, we played basketball on the outdoor courts and just, we had a lot in common. And when we sat there and talked, you know, asked him what he was doing and he was working for the street department. I said, what all you do? He said, well, you know, different things. On Mondays, we'll clean the parks and pick up the limbs and mow the grass. And maybe Tuesday we'll paint curbs, and Wednesday. And he went on, he said, on Thursday, we always pick up garbage. And I said, what, you know, on a garbage truck? He said, yeah. I said, you drive the truck? He said, hell no, Sam drives the truck. I'm on the back. And the other assistant was there with me, and we kept going. And I asked Larry, you think you come to visit us at Indiana State? He said, well, I don't know. And the other assistant said, well, what do you want to work on a garbage truck for $2 the rest of your life? And Larry looked at him and said, well, I kind of like the job. And it kind of ticked him off. So I thought, I better get Stan and get out of here before Stan really makes him mad. And so I said, I got up. I said, Larry, we got to go. I said, I'll be back in a couple of days, and you think it over. But he was okay with working that job. He was a gifted basketball player, but he's really humble. You know, he didn't get to talking trash until he was in the pros.
Right. Now he was a great player. Could tell me now, but I think it's him and some some other guys came to your school and they actually scrimmaged some of your players, and I think you beat them pretty good, right?
Yeah. Well, what happened is, I'd gone back in 2 days and I had all the paperwork, the envelope address, had a stamp on it, and all I needed was Larry's signature. And so when I went back, they invited me in the house and fixed me some iced tea, and we sat there and chatted. And he said, "How do you know I was going to do the paperwork? I was going to sign." I said, "Well, this doesn't mean anything. You don't have to go anywhere, but if you sign this, it gives you permission to go." And so he signed, and I took it to the post office myself and mailed it. I said, when would you guys like to come visit? He asked me if a friend could come with him. I said, sure. And so he said, well, sometime this week. He said, do you practice in the afternoon? I said, yeah, our guys play pickup every afternoon. He said, what time? I said, generally at 3:30. He said, okay, well, we'll think about it. Well, I forget what day it was, but somebody came to my office and said, "Hey, Coach, Larry Bird's looking for you." And I said, "No kidding." So I got up, went out, and they were in the gym. And him and three of his buddies, I said, "Well, you guys want to scrimmage against our guys?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, you got jeans on, jeans and T-shirt." I said, "Yeah, you want me to get you some shorts to wear?" He said, "No, we're just playing these."
That's right.
And so I said, "Okay." They just beat the snot out of them. I mean, they hammered them. And I'll tell you, Larry he really he made our guys look real normal.